truly prepared to allow this to continue in your name.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2024 Netflix science fiction sequel, Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. The film is directed by Zack Snyder and stars Sophia Boutella, Anthony Hopkins, Ed Skrein, Jenna Malone, Michael Huisman, Dijon Honso, and we have Corey Stoll, so on and so forth. This is the sequel to the first Rebel Moon that came out late last year, and it's a film, I quite enjoyed. It had some limitations. At the time, I seem to remember comparing it to Battle Beyond the Stars, and I actually think this film is even more... when you combine the two, which essentially is one film, if you like, it is Battle Beyond the Stars, this film. And I'd argue that debate with anybody. But this time round, after the end of the last film, where Cora thinks that she's killed Ed Skreин's character, the vicious, atrocious noble, he's not. He's been brought back to life, and he heads back to their home planet that they are preparing to defend. They train all the villagers, all the farmers, they set up their defences, they bond, and then the bad guys turn up, and then for the last pretty much hour of the film, it's just one big battle. Right, so what are my thoughts on Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver? Well, let's be clear, I suppose. For those of you who watched the first one and didn't enjoy it, there's no surprise here. You're not going to enjoy the second part because it's essentially a continuation, a conclusion of what we got in the first film. I think the narrative's a bit tighter this time round because it's kind of all based on their home planet that was, threatened in the first film, and they've brought all the mercenaries back with them to help them defend it. So it's a bit tighter, as I've said. Like it's about 2 hours long, just over. The first half of it is them, bonding, preparing the defences, training, and then scenes with the Ed Skrein character being nasty and a few flashbacks here and there. And then the second half of the film is just the battle. So it's a bit tighter in that sense. If you thought the first film was a bit confused narratively, which it was at times, this is a simpler story to follow this time round. I think they kind of missed a trick. I think one thing that I thought was the weakness of the first film is, these mercenaries that they were going to recruit, they just were just faces. They meant nothing to me, really, for the most part. And then we get that scene in this film where they all kind of talk about why they're doing what they're doing, what their past is, so on and so forth. So we're given the opportunity to understand and learn more about them. A film too late, you could argue, the second part, and then the battle, I suppose. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I thought the effects here was done very, very well, and I thought the effects in the first one were done very, very well. And I like this kind of world that is being created and built here by Zack Snyder. I think, it's admirable. And for those of you who don't know, that my understanding is that this story was pitched as a Star Wars, film. And it was turned down, if you like, by Disney. So Zack Snyder developed it into his own kind of, I was about to say franchise there, but I think it ain't going to be a franchise, is it? I don't think, anyway. But it does feel like one of those, films, both the first and this one, that kind of steals bits from other films. Like you've got your Battle Beyond the Stars sort of thing. You've got people fighting with swords that light up. We've got the Magnificent Seven syndrome, as I like to call it, which was what was used heavily in Battle Beyond the Stars anyway, where you get these characters that you connect to and then they're killed off. And then you've got this weird robot, Jimmy, voiced by Anthony Hopkins, that number one, his voice doesn't suit. I don't think it does anyway. And number two, you've been kind of waiting for him for 2 films, essentially, to come round to the fact that, you know, these farmers are actually fighting for a good cause. And then when he finally decides to pick a side or do something about it, you get a pretty cool scene with him doing what he does, kicking ass, and that's it. You just think, well, hang on, we waited nearly 2 films for that. So it's almost like there's too much crammed into the last hour, and he had 2 films to kind of, you know, let it breathe a little bit, the story. And I have to be honest, for the characters that we lost in this film, in the battle, I didn't really feel anything, and one of them should have had an emotional effect on me, and it just didn't, because I didn't kind of buy the relationship that these characters kind of had with each other. So I don't know. I don't think this is as good as the first one, even though it's a tighter narrative. I thought I was going to enjoy this more than the first one, because some of my complaints in the first one I don't really have in this one. These are kind of different complaints for the most part. But it's a fun watch. I think some people are, being a bit too brutal with this film. At the end of the day, it's a Netflix film. You know, if you like sci-fi, you like, you know, new sci-fi, and you like, you know, big budget, big effects and big epic storylines, and, you know, and you don't mind the fact that it's flawed. What does it matter? It's on Netflix. Give it a watch. If you don't like it, so what? It's not the end of the day. But I suspect for the most part the people that are kind of disliking this one quite immensely, I would suggest, are probably the same people that didn't like the first one. For me, if I watch a first film and I didn't like it, I'm not going to watch the second one. But that's just me. But yeah, I thought this was a decent conclusion to the story, but it's undeniably flawed in quite a few ways. But I still had fun with it. I think it was a decent film put together that kind of finishes the story of the first one. Was it worth the wait? Well, I don't know, because I wasn't overjoyed with the first one or anything like that. I thought it was good. I thought it was better than some people would have you believe, and I think this one is a little bit better than some of the reviews would have you believe, but that's just my opinion, of course. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed checking out this review. I will, of course, be back with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.